How y'all doing tonight? CraptasticJack here. Welcome back to another video. Today we're going to be talking about the Crew 3. It's been a while since I made my last video on the Crew 3, and I said in that video, I believe, that I was going to start talking about the Crew 3 because as the Crew 2 strays further and further from the Crew 1's theme, even more so, especially with the addition of, in my opinion, very ugly and tacky neons and vanity items and wheel colors and wheel smoke. I think it's time to start talking about the Crew 3 and specifically what I would specifically want out of a game, and a lot actually with what you guys wanted. I actually asked in my community section a couple of weeks ago. It was 3 weeks, I apologize, but I asked my community what they would like to see in terms of a third Crew game. So I have a good couple of responses from them as well coming on later in the video. So today I actually have some notes of stuff I kind of would like to see, kind of as a baseline. I may make some more videos kind of talking about more of these in depth, but as of right now, these are a lot of things that I would like to see as part of a third Crew game. So without further interruptions, let's get right into the video. So yeah, first thing, the first and most important thing, and I touched on this in my last Crew 3 video a couple months ago, is a focus on cars and bikes. Basically, like land vehicles. I believe that they should remove planes and boats from the next game. I can understand them wanting to like try something new and like go do something that other racing games are not doing. But in the end, it just ended up ruining a lot of the game for a lot of people. A lot too many sacrifices had to be made to implement planes and boats, such as the map had to be pretty much redesigned. It may not look like it in a lot of places, but rivers had to be added. Entire city blocks had to be changed. So that way, if you transform from an airplane in the middle of a city block, you'd have somewhere to drive. It may not look like it, but they actually did have to change the map quite a lot, and most of the times, it was for the worse. I mean, cities are less detailed. Hell, you can drive through Chicago, there's no events. Drive through San Francisco or Seattle, there's no traffic lights at intersections, even in big cities like Los Angeles and New York. The small upgrades they did to the downtown areas of New York and Los Angeles just don't make up for the rest of the map, which in my opinion they butchered. And all of this is because they had to make room and change things to implement planes and boats. So I would rather see the next third Crew game just focus on cars and bikes. And if it gets to the point where they can add it in as like an optional feature later down the road, or as a DLC, then I'm all for that. But as long as they have the base down for cars and bikes, and like just focused on that, just focus on the street racing, the off-roading sections of the game, then I think they're already off to a much better start. If they focus on a smaller amount of things than a larger variety, I really feel can really help them out, especially in the theme department and especially with their direction of the game. Because the Crew 2 is a very directionless game. The Crew 2 has real no set direction. It goes in one place, then the other, then the other, then the other. And that's not to the game's benefit. So if they focus on what originally made the Crew 1 like a great game, if they focus on what brought people to the Crew in the first place, because the most part is the street racing. I don't know anyone who plays the Crew 2 for planes. I don't know anyone who plays the Crew 2 for boats either. I mean, I'm a plane guy. I fly X-Plane. I literally just downloaded P3D the other day. And I'm super fucking excited for Microsoft Flight Sim. You fucking know it. I don't play this game for planes. I mean, after all, the game's mileage tracks plane speed in miles per hour as opposed to knots per hour. You know, that right there is not a good sign. You can't even use like a HOTAS system, a flight stick. You can't even use that in the game. So why would I want to play the Crew 2 for planes, you know? If I want to fly a plane, I'll hop on X-Plane, do some VFR flying. Microsoft Flight Sim 2020 is coming out. That game's gonna be fucking amazing for VFR flighting, bush flying, like all that stuff. It's gonna be awesome. You can't really do that in the Crew 2. Focus on cars and bikes. My second major thing that I would like to see from the Crew 3 right out of the gate is PvP and Summit. Those two things need to be on launch. PvP was the main reason a lot of people stayed and played the Crew 1 for like years after it came out. I know me and my friends spent hundreds of hours on PvP. It wasn't the best in the Crew 1, and you know they had the chance to fix a lot of the Crew 1's PvP's problems in the Crew 2, and they just never did. And it took them 6 months to release it in the first place, and what we got was just the same thing, more or less, if not worse than the Crew 1's PvP system. So again, if they focus on cars and bikes, and they put PvP there on launch, and have the summit there on launch, those two things right there are guaranteed to keep people coming back, especially if you just have cars and cars and bikes. Then people aren't going to leave when a plane-based summit or a boat-based summit comes along. You know, like, people are there for the racing of cars and bikes. They're not there for boats and planes. So if you have that in there and you have the summit on launch along with PvP, proper endgame on launch, then already you're off to a massive head start compared to the Crew 2 and maybe even the Crew 1, because the Crew 1 on launch was still kind of lacking in the endgame department. It had PvP, but other than that, there really wasn't too much to do. So if you put these two things in there, then again, you're guaranteed to have a much successful start to your game, as opposed to what you did with the Crew 2. And number 3 is cops return to the free roam, as well as some sort of illegal street racing. Now, the Crew 3 does not need to focus specifically on illegal street racing. There could be multiple different disciplines in the Crew 3 as long as they're car-based. I could think of so many disciplines for car-based, you know, motorsports. But there needs to be a street racing element, an illegal street racing element to the game. The Crew 1 was all about that, and that what they gave the game character. That's what they gave the game charm. Being able to do illegal street races, dodging traffic, and outrunning the cops, that shit was really fun, and it adds a lot of life into the game, especially even if you don't have like an underground based illegal street racing like aspect of the Crew 2, there still needs to be cops that free roam around the game. It gives the game life. It gives the world, you know, meaning to drive around, getting into cop chases and everything. If they brought back something like calling all units, where like you have free roam cops, but then you also have like game modes, like hot pursuit events, where you can have like people in supercars or just like any car. Honestly, it could be any car. And then you have a team of cops trying to take them down. And you have cops going after them. Even though calling all units was pretty broken, it was still a lot of fun. And those crates were so fucking addicting. If they bring those back too, that would be insane. Again, the world in the Crew 2 feels dead as shit, and it's one of the least reactive open worlds I've ever seen. And a lack of cops is a big part of that. And then also, I believe that in terms of like story and atmosphere, there should again be an underground illegal street racing side of things. Kind of way I'd see is like have your character start off as an illegal street racer and work their way up to become a professional race car driver. Although, again, and I'm going to get to this next point with the map, I'm not really sure if they really should go for like a legal street racing thing. And if they do, I'd like to see it more so like Pro Street as opposed to anything like Pro Street or even Need for Speed Heat's like daytime legal events. Because like they tried to go with this whole touring car thing, but there's not enough tracks I feel to really flesh that out in the game. And there are some tracks that still don't even have races in them, like Laguna Seca. So maybe do that, but as you work your way up from illegal street racer, you become a legal street racer in like these events and everything. Or they could do something like Need for Speed Heat, where you're a legal racer in the daytime, but at nighttime you're an illegal street racer outrunning the cops. Again, I don't want the Crew has its own identity compared to Need for Speed, but in my opinion, the Crew's identity is based a lot in like a Need for Speed-esque game. The Crew 2 to me is not a Crew game. The Crew 1 is a definite Crew game. Like, you had those like rich flavors of illegal street racing and underground street racing, but you also had those rich flavors of Test Drive Unlimited as you're just cruising through all different parts of the United States, you know, just chilling, laid back. You also had hints of rally games like Smuggler's Run, Dirt, and all that. You also had like bikes and everything, Test Drive Unlimited flavors. You had flavors from a bunch of different games, and it all molded super nicely into, in my opinion, what the Crew is. And part of what the Crew is illegal street racing. It's not the entirety of the game, but it's still a big chunk of it to me. And they just threw that chunk away with the Crew 2. And the Crew 2, none of the flavors that it's molding together do not bode well together. It's not, they just don't go together. And with the addition of planes and boats, it just ruined it. So that's in terms of like identity and, you know, like focus. I really think they should bring back illegal street racing and cop chases into the Crew 3. Up next is a new map. Now this is something I'm very torn on. I'm definitely gonna have another video about this in the future. Should we have a new map? I personally think we should have a new map at this point. Now where it should be based is another question. I've heard the argument before that the Crew, in terms of identity, is based in American, you know, it's based in America. America is a big part of the Crew's identity. But at the same time, they should not be reusing the same map for next generation. So let's face it, if there is a Crew 3, it's going to be on the next generation of consoles. And if they use the same map, that map is from a game that was being developed during the PS3 and Xbox 360 era. That's not going to go well. The map, even when the Crew 1 came out, still looked very, very not up to standards, even in like 2015. So I really believe they should focus on a new map. Now I think it should, I'm still debating with myself if it should be a smaller map or if they should push the limits again with next gen hardware. Again, maps like the Crew's map take a lot of time to develop. To start off, I think a good way to look at this is if we look at another game I'm really a fan of, American Truck Simulator. American Truck Simulator started off with 2 states. Now granted, the Crew, if they were to do this model, shouldn't start off with 2 states, start off with more obviously, but basically it's at a 1.3 scale or 1.16 scale, I forgot, of model of the United States. And it started off with California, Arizona, and Nevada, and every couple months they're adding new DLCs with new states. I know Idaho is coming as a next state. They just added Utah and Washington to it too. Now obviously truck sims are not racing games, but that kind of model could exist. They could start off with, say, the western half of the United States, just focus on working on a map of the western United States, or maybe like a region of the United States, like Nevada, or like Las Vegas, or like San Diego, Los Angeles. Have like a region, like a diverse region. I think Southern California would be a really good region because you have a lot of diverse landscapes there. You have the desert, you have Las Vegas, like gambling cities like Las Vegas, you have racetracks there too. You have long sweeping desert roads, but you also have ocean highways, winding ocean highways. You have mountain canyon roads. You have cities like San Diego. You have like places like Seacrest County. You have like Yosemite and all that for like your snow and all that. I feel that region of America can really bode well. And if they want to expand further, they have the ability to. I really think, as of right now, where I stand, I think they should have a smaller map. But a smaller but more streamlined map, to kind of really focus in more on detail, hone in on other aspects of the game, and not have it to where the map is really bogging down the game and preventing new features from being implemented and fixes from being implemented. I really think that's what they should do. Again, however, I can sway on this issue. I have before. So let me know what you guys think about this. I'll probably end up doing another video on this probably sometime in the future. Next one, customization removed from Crew credits. What do I mean by this? Basically, in the Crew 2, you have vanity items, like window tint, neon, and all that, but you need to either win summits or buy them with Crew credits. And if you don't know, Crew credits are the currency in the Crew 2 that can be bought with real world money. And this is not good. The Crew 2, it's not good. The other day, I was streaming the Crew 2 on my Twitch, and I bought a window tint for 5,000 Crew credits, which is like, what, $2? But still, it still does not set a good precedent, especially now in 2020. You're the gamer. And also, I bought a black window tint, you know, just a darker window tint. You can't make it darker or lighter once you buy it. You can only put it on one car, and it's automatically applied. When you buy it, it's automatically applied to the car that you were last driving. And you have to take it off and put it on other cars. It's just a very awful vanity system. And in my opinion, this customization, like the vanity item customization, it should be like Need for Speed, where you can just buy it with regular currency and then have like special editions or something as summit rewards. You obviously need something as a summit reward, but you shouldn't have to buy window tint in the fucking crew credit store. No, that should just be something you could buy right off the bat with your bucks. I guess that's the main currency of the crew. That definitely needs to change. That is not streamlined at all. It's just a big hassle at this point. And this is a personal thing, in my opinion. They really kind of need to tone it back with some of the tire smoke and everything. It does not look good, Chief. It does not look good. But yeah, personally, that's what I believe they should do with customization and vanity item customization. And another thing I want to see is the phone back. And this is all just kind of talking about streamlining the game. You know, that little smartphone that you got where you can select cars on the fly and everything. Why isn't that in the Crew 2 yet? That's so much more streamlined than going into the menu, scrolling through a list of all the cars that you have, and then finding that car. No, it was a lot more streamlined with that phone option, being able to do the radio and everything in one area. Why that's not in the Crew 2 after 2 years, I don't know. Bring that back into Crew 3. Another big thing I would like to see is a bigger emphasis on crews. Now, again, I'm not sure how they can do this with the Crew 2. It doesn't seem like they're able to, because we probably would have had bigger crews by now if they could. The game's called The Crew for a reason, and the Crew 2 does not really have a good crew aspect to it. It's literally just there in name only. Again, another reason why I feel the Crew 2 is not a real crew game. Crew 3 needs to have a bigger emphasis on crews, and I'm not talking 8-person lobbies or anything like that, or 8-person crews. I'm talking actual crews that you can set up, hire people, manage, set people in different roles and everything. That's what I'm talking about. I'm talking Forza or Need for Speed's crews, but definitely with a bigger emphasis. Being able to do crew v crew events with 8 people on each side, 16 v 16. Being able to do car meets with your crew, having a full lobby of people with a car meet. Being able to, they just added this to the Crew 2. Being able to walk around third person with avatars. Imagine being able to do that, but at car meets with your crew, with your friends. That would be fucking sick. And if they focus on bringing a bigger crew emphasis into the game, then I really believe that this could definitely take off as a better social game. Because part of the reason the Crew 2 died is because you weren't really able to do much with your crew. Imagine if you could go out and do challenges, or just have impromptu street meets, or side shows, or just car meets and all that with your crew, with your friends, and being able to do whatever the hell you want in a big group. That would be awesome. It's a shame that in 2020, you're the gamer, that I need to pick and choose who to invite to my lobby when I'm playing the game on stream. And just yesterday, there was a bunch of people that wanted to join my crew, and I couldn't invite them all, sadly, because there's only 3 other people you can invite to your crew, plus you. So this is a big thing I really want to see in the Crew 3. Is a big improvement to the crew focus of the game. God, this recording's going on forever, yikes. And then another thing I would like to see, and this is actually my last point, is better communication from Ivory Tower. Ivory Tower, especially when the Crew 2 came out, just stopped really communicating. I mean, they had those live streams and everything, but outside of those, there's no communication. They really seem to just focus on their pit crew members. It seems like they're the only people they're listening to, and even then, I've seen a lot of those people complaining that they're not listening. Ivory Tower needs to open up. They can't just sit there and just listen to the people they want to listen to. That's what it honestly seems like with the Crew 2. They seem to be in their own ivory tower of criticism. They don't seem to be listening, because if they truly were, there would be so many fixes to game-breaking issues that have been issues since the Crew 1 by now. Or they would have communicated that, hey, we'd love to fix it, but we're limited and we can't do it. We've never heard any of that. So the Crew 3 seriously needs better communication. This is something that needs to be taught, honestly. We've obviously, all the things I've just listed on my list here, we obviously have been asking for all these for a while now. And especially since the Crew 2 took a lot of what was fun out of the Crew. So we're asking for a lot of these things back. I think you'd think they've understood by now, but so if we really want all these things, Ivory Tower really needs to step up and start listening. But basically, overall, what I'm trying to say is with the Crew 3, the game needs to be a lot more streamlined. That's actually what I wrote down here. I don't know if you can read my shitty handwriting, but The game needs to be more streamlined. The Crew 2 is not streamlined at all. The Crew 3 needs to take out a lot of the junk that was added into the Crew 2 and focus on perfecting what made the Crew good in the first place. What made people come to the Crew in the first place? Because let me tell you, it was not planes nor boats. It was the Crew 1's awesome blend of illegal, Need for Speed, underground street racing, cops, hot pursuit vibes, Test Drive Unlimited vibes. It molded all those different like blends of like flavors of games together. And that's what brought people to the Crew. That's what gave the Crew its original identity. Crew 2 fucking bastardized it. Let's hope that Ivory Tower buckles down, listens up, and delivers us a good Crew experience. Because they did not deliver at all with the Crew 2. So yeah, finally 23 minutes into this recording, we're gonna get to what you guys wanted to see out of the Crew 3. So yeah, again, this was 3 weeks ago. I apologize. The first one comes up from Jonathan Schwartz. Better graphics and a story. Something to do other than free roam and PvP. Maybe a new map. And that is something I did kind of forget to touch on, is a story, like a proper story. The Crew 2's campaign is the weakest excuse for a racing game campaign I've ever seen and played through. So having some sort of actual campaign just to kind of like guide us into the game and, you know, kind of draw us into the game and keep us engaged in the game, that's something that I would really like to see. Devishar, I butchered your name, I apologize. A story like the Crew 1 and Cops, again, especially the Cops thing, adds to the atmosphere, and with a story, like, again, you can guide people into the game and keep them engaged. I was definitely more engaged in the Crew 1 story and wanted to finish it than the Crew 2's. The Crew 2's, I had to force myself to finish it. Like, it was that bad. So a good story can keep people engaged in a game and playing longer, but a bad one can kick them out of the game before they've even nearly gotten started. Max says, bring back the story like the first game had. Maybe another take on the famous Cannonball Run race. Yeah, Need for Speed Run already did that, but it's possible to use the sole concept of that race as a base while still making the story unique. That's a pretty unique answer. That's actually really cool. I mean, especially if they do the United States again, like the entirety of the United States, a Cannonball Run type event that like kind of brings the story together, that would actually be really cool. Add a fuck ton of races around the map for players to earn the money without the need of grinding the same events for quicker money. Add car dealerships where certain brands are sold, like Test Drive Unlimited, where some special dealerships have rare cars in stock, and every certain period of time the set of available rare cars changes. Again, inspired by classic car dealerships and Test Drive Unlimited. Although planes and boats were an interesting addition to the game, I prefer them to go away. Maybe have them in certain story missions so that it'll be memorable, but there's no need to have them as a whole different vehicle class. Just leave the whole game to cars and optional bikes. Again, I wholeheartedly agree. Bring back the idea of modifying the same car into different classes. That was a neat feature of the original Crew. That was like one of their big unique selling points for the Crew 1, I remember, actually. Bring back police chases, hell yeah. And maybe add missions like in Hot Pursuit 2 where the player can be a policeman for a short period of time. Again, like calling all units. I would definitely like to see that return. It'll be enough, as in my opinion, calling all units DLC kind of overdid the whole police thing. A minor suggestion, add semi-trucks with trailers into the traffic. I was about to say, like, add like trucks into like be able to drive. It would be cool to watch them going as a convoy between cities. Gives a more realistic feel to the driving experience and maybe an ability to interact with them during police chases, kind of like Most Wanted car. It'd be pretty cool. Although, another minor idea, add randomly generated accidents along the roads or in the cities, like there's a fire somewhere, so there's a fire truck going through the streets, or a traffic accident, so one lane is blocked again, for purposes of giving that feel the in-game world lives on its own. I remember the Crew 1, before the Wild Run expansion, you would see fire trucks, ambulances with like their sirens on, just kind of blazing through the city. That type of stuff gave the world life. You'd be hard pressed to find that in the Crew 2. Jack Scott says Summit closer to the launch date. Didn't touch the game for 6 months before that came out. Exactly. Then the Summit and PvP, if that's not there on launch, the game will die. Unless there's another form of endgame. That's just facts at this point. Ivory Tower should know that by now. Everyday Geek says, go back to the roots of the first game with a game about street racing, maybe a darker tone with the story. Maybe ditch the planes and boats and just focus on the cars and bikes, since that's what everyone plays the game for. Exactly. Some of PvP at launch, as well as bringing back old game modes for PvP, such as Crown elimination races for the first game. I actually forgot about that. Crown and, what was it, elimination races were frustrating when you lost, but they were definitely hella fun, especially with friends, especially the Crowned game modes. Those were awesome. Bring back cops, especially for having a street racing focused game, and finally a new map. It's fun to drive around the United States, but we had it twice now and want to explore a new world. Again, that's another thing, especially with the world, that I'm still yet to kind of like, I'm very iffy about. Should they return to the United States for the third crew game, or should they focus on a new country? I don't know. Let me know in the comments. The Ignitionizor just wants a good game. Hairman says a come button, but honestly, a higher quality map and more variation. Yo, what about that come button though? I want that. Darman, I'm just gonna call you AA. AA says all of the features from both games, both boats and planes, aren't necessary from the start, with new features added on top. Also, not having for us to wait 2 years only to get a PvP system, that's a far cry from the first game's PvP. More houses if they decide to carry them over, with the option of letting in friends who can walk around you. Please would be nice, and also please, please, please make the headlights work so I can actually push my car at night and see where I'm going. Headlights have been an issue since Wild Run. I feel like they really need to completely rehaul the game and make a completely new game, not based off the first two, to actually get that working. Jake MG says, good optimization and graphics. That looked like something from 2020, that is true. The Crew 2 looks like a game from like 2010 at times. And that's actually being mean to games from 2010. Like Hot Pursuit looks fucking amazing even today. So they definitely need to step it up in terms of graphics. Hence why I'm thinking they should do a smaller map. Alan Tank says, new multiplayer modes similar to GT Online, Need for Speed Speedless, and Forza Adventures. I'm not too sure what he means by that, but I guess like new multiplayer modes that we haven't seen in PvP add into the game. I think that would be pretty cool. Like a cops and robbers maybe type event. Of course, that's the first thing that comes to my head. Or something like similar like that. That would be pretty cool to see. Prisha actually says, more customization, preferably without the grindy loot mechanic. Oh my god, this is actually something I completely forgot about. I'm just going to go on a side tangent real quick. The grind in this game can't be there in a Crew 3. It's not even that bad in the sense of like saving up to buy cars, but when it comes to saving up for making a car race ready or loot-based RNG, that shit needs to go in the fucking toilet right away. That is one of the biggest things that draws people away from the Crew 2. Crew 3 should not have loot-based RNG. You should be able, like, there should be some sort of grind, obviously, to be able to get work up to, like, fancy cars, but at the same time, it shouldn't take you literal days to do it. And the perk system, keep it like it was in the Crew 1, or just remove them entirely. Loot, perks should not be tied to loot. That just makes the game overtly grindy, and it just ruins the fun for a lot of people. I know a lot of friends who played the Crew 2, but just never got that far in because the grinding was just too unbearable. It takes way too long, and it's to the point where it's not fun. It's horrendous. When it comes to the Crew 3, they should just scrap the whole grinding aspect, you know? The whole loot aspect. Having to clear out my mailbox every fucking day, not fun. Having to grind fucking several races over and over and over and over again just to get some good parts, not fun. Not fun at all, and it doesn't help the game. Remove that shit. That's probably one of the biggest things they need to remove for the Crew 3. Basically, more customization for all vehicle types and more event types for existing vehicle types. Toge for drift cars, acrobatics for motocross bikes, etc. I don't mind the inclusion of planes and boats even can be fun, so they can return, but they should have some sort of customization. Cops I would be fine with or without, but they can't just be there for the sake of being there or interact with the rest of the game or interfere with the rest of the gameplay. I haven't touched the game in over a year, but I just reinstalled it this week and I've actually been having tons of fun. I don't know how you're having fun. hey, more power to you. If you enjoy this game, more power to you. I wish I were you, because this game's kind of donkey doodle. That's me being diplomatic. And then Danny says only cars, maybe bikes as well. Personally, I believe bikes should definitely make a return. For a lot of people, it's a very unique selling point. No other racing games are doing bikes. Like, no other arcade open world racing games are doing bikes. So that can really be a good, unique selling point to the Crew 3, is the bikes. And yikes, that's a 32-minute recording right there. Thank you all for tuning into this very long video about the Crew 3 and what I would like to see. Leave me suggestions for more Crew 3 videos that you would like to see in the comment section down below. But that's going to be it for me tonight. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. I'll be seeing you guys in the next video. Have a good one, guys.